race at the Auto Trader British Touring Car Championship, it just got faster. A whole lot faster.
A few hundred tons of fresh tarmac and a quick shave of the worst bumps has knocked 3 seconds off the lap times and pushed average speeds towards the 115-mile-an-hour mark.
There are times you get scared in racing cars, and Thruxton is most certainly one of those times. You know, every lap's a different event.
The surface is not completely flat, so this gives you big moments sometimes.
Oh yeah, it gets a bit exciting in certain places.
Because the car moving a lot, like a waves car, and it's
Thruxton is murder on all the car's components, but one factor is more important than any other, and that is tyre wear. And that's because Thruxton gives the car's rubber an absolute belting.
The speed's okay if you're in control, but if a tyre goes bang, as they've certainly been known to here, you're in for a pretty wild ride.
It's nothing worse than, you know, being turned into church 140 mile an hour and the front tyre departed.
I think a cold sweat goes through you. It's a pretty unnerving thing when you're doing, you know, sort of 130 mile an hour plus.
For a tyre manufacturer, Thruxton is just as big a challenge as it is for the drivers.
we made a special tyre just for this circuit. It's using more advanced materials in the construction. It is very secret, and you'll notice we'll count everyone out of our trucks and count them all back to make sure he's got them. But they are designed to cope specifically with this circuit, with the new surface. Everything's been taken into consideration, including if it gets even hotter than it is now. Everybody's trying to make sure that we don't have a problem, that it's safe really, and of course use exciting racing.
Ivan Muller knows all about the pitfalls of Thruxton. He's been bitten by it more than once. And the track is faster this year, but it's also smoother, fewer bumps. So what part of that is actually making the track quicker?
Well, there is two parts. First, the surface is brand new, and normally on the new surface the grip is very high, yeah. And also because now we don't feel so much the bump like last year. So there is two reasons we take the speed.
So we're coming down to a corner like Church, which is the mother of all corners, the fastest corner in Britain. You don't go through any corner faster than here. What's the difference in speed now?
Yeah, for sure, it's the most expensive corner, I would say, because for my grey hair, and this corner is very, very exciting. No, it's nearly flat in 6th gear. The speed in this corner is 140 miles per hour, more or less. But you have to be very smooth with the steering wheel. It's quite hard for the neck. And it's very exciting and very nice.
Nearly flat out, not completely flat out.
Nearly flat out. I think we can do flat out, but it's a too big risk to lose the time to do this, because sometimes you can have a big oversteer, because it's still some bump. I passed 2-3 times flat out, but I noticed was not really a big gain, and the gain was too small compared to the risk. So.
And the grey hair.
Exactly.
And if you're wondering why we're talking to Ivan about the fastest way around Thruxton, well, consider this. Only a week ago at Donington, the Vauxhalls were in the middle of the pack. They were also Rans. Now, well, they're the car to beat, only a week later. Go figure.
At Donington, Ford dominated qualifying, took a 1-2-3 in the sprint and won the feature despite heaps of success ballast. But at Thruxton, things had changed. Rickard Rydell got a second for the sprint, but that aside, it was glum faces and perplexion all round. Compare and contrast with Vauxhall. Their best grid position last week was 7th. Yet Van Muller had taken pole for the sprint. And before that, Jason Plato headed a 1-2-3 for the feature race. Try asking Ford the secret, because Vauxhall sure wasn't letting on.
I can't tell you exactly because I'm not driving a Vauxhall, so I don't know what their car is like. But what happens is that some cars perform better on some circuits. Maybe to have the 40 kilos is a bit of a disadvantage at Thruxton. Maybe you know, their car is quite good on the fast corners, and that's how it's going to be. I mean, this championship is so close, it's very competitive, and we are all very evenly matched.
Of the others, Honda took its turn playing catch-up. Donington hero Gabriele Tarquini had to play second fiddle to Tom Christensen, while former Nissan man David Leslie sat in for the still injured James Thompson.
My task for myself is to finish the 2 races, score points in both races, basically finish as high up as I can. The idea is not to block my copybook and be a good boy today.
The Vauxhalls are supposed to be the cars to beat around here, but for the sprint race at least, Van Muller is the only Vauxhall driver who's managed to swim his way upstream all the way to the front row of the grid. He's actually surrounded by Fords. Got Rickard Rydell alongside him on the front row, and right behind him Anthony Reid. So for the first couple of corners at least, Van's going to have his hands full fending off. Now, we've heard all the theory about the fastest way around this track, how much quicker it is. Van has even shown us. The new surface has made a lot of difference, but that's qualifying, that's practice. We haven't actually raced at these high speeds before, but that is about to change because around that corner is literally a trip into the unknown.
Thanks, Charlie. I think what you're saying is it's all about apocalypse now. But here at Thruxton for round 5 of the British Touring Car Championship, we've got a Vauxhall on pole position. Van Muller alongside Rickard Rydell on the first of the Fords. Anthony Reid and Vincent Rademacher make up row 2. And surprisingly, championship leader Menu and Plato on row 3. Row 4 sees lead independent Matt Neal and the first of the Hondas, Tom Christensen. Row 5 is all Hondas, Tarquini and Leslie. And then Class B runners, Morrison in the Peugeot, Lemmer on the Honda, James Kay in his Honda, and finally Colin Blair after a troublesome practice.
And the revs are up, ready for a start. Muller jumps away cleanly. Nice start from him. Reid looks as though he's getting away well. Muller, Reid up the inside of Rydell. Yes, it looks like Anthony Reid has already picked up a spot into the first corner. Over the top through Allards. That's Rademacher right behind them. Into the complex for the first time. Reid right behind Muller. Rydell trying his Swedish shuffle around the outside, but it won't work because Reid cuts it off. Reid tries to move across to the inside, has a lunge at Muller, can't do it. So through the first set of complexes, and it's Muller from Reid from Rydell. Here's Rademacher in 4th. Out towards Noble. Tyres still cold. First lap, really got to concentrate here. Looking for a way through. That's Rydell ahead of us, and Rademacher is trying to squeeze his way through there. Rademacher really on a charge early, heading down to Church now. Now here's the third of our Fords, Alain Menu in 5th place. That's Rademacher. We're coming into Church corner, trying to squeeze through there. That's not going to work, but it was very, very close stuff. Alain Menu aggressive in the opening lap.
Very brave of Alain Menu, but of course this Thruxton circuit, freshly resurfaced, tons of grip, and a punt on the inside like that clearly was on for Menu.
Well, is this on for Plato? This is Jason Plato right behind Alain Menu. Menu might be on the charge, but he's under threat as well. Through the complex and across the start-finish line for the first time. Plato really putting him under pressure. But up at the front, it's Muller. Then it's Reid. Through Allard's corner, that's a tricky one. Then it's Rydell. Menu now. We're looking back. There's the battle ahead of us. That's Rademacher up in front, coming into the complex. Having a look down the inside. Rademacher to the left of us, and he's tagged him. Well, that's one way. One Vauxhall down, 2 to go.
Well, we may have had the Snooker World Championship on TV, but this is motor racing's version of that sport.
Well, trying to regroup now. We're on board with Rademacher, trying to work out what on earth that was all about. Now Menu is ahead of us, in through Noble corner. Obviously not. Well, Vincent Rademacher is going to develop a complex if he's not careful. He's just been headbutted by Menu. Now Plato's on the horn, telling the team to get him out of the way. Let me pass him.
Well, Jason, of course, wants to get into contact with the lead group as soon as possible, and Rademacher really is the number 3 driver in the Vauxhall team.
On board with Rademacher down the back straight. Plato's lurking around here somewhere. There's the fellow that just knocked him off ahead of us. Alain Menu into the complex. Turning in, he's very close to Menu now. He's trying to have a lunge. That's it, boy. Have a run back at him. Plato right on Rademacher's bumper. Meantime, this is very, very busy for Vauxhall. Across the strike again. Plato looking as though he's trying to line up Rademacher through Allards. And he's really, really on attack mode, and it doesn't look at this stage as though Rademacher's giving him any space at all. Now, here's the view back. We're on board with Matt Neal, and this is Tarquini lunging at us. Oh, you can feel that.
Matt Neal's been the victim of many of the factory teams so far this year, and nothing's really going to change.
Where are they? Well, there they are. There's Tarquini. We're looking back at him, and look, right behind there's Christensen. Now, we're on board with Tarquini. He's got his teammate Christensen behind, and Matt Neal, the quarry, dead ahead. Through Noble Corner, rocking on the suspension really quickly now. Can he hold it in tight? Tarquini's trying so hard to get a tighter line through there and a run down to church, but I reckon he slowed himself up in the process. Look,
yes, he got too close to the back of the Nissan, lost a little bit of aerodynamic in the front, had to back out of the throttle to check the car, and there's the result.
He didn't only lose aerodynamic, he lost a place. Bit of tag team going on here. Okay, I've had a lunge at him. Tarquini, I've softened him up. Now, Christensen, you go and see what you can do with Neal. Now, talking of softening up, there goes Jason Plato. Rademacher moves to the side, his indicator is on, so that wasn't a forced pass, he let him through. Manners are breaking out all over the place this afternoon.
Well, we've got Müller, Plato and Rademacher fighting for this championship for Vauxhall, but really Müller and Plato are the 2 drivers that the team are focusing upon.
Well, as they form an orderly queue in the Vauxhall team, they're doing much the same up the front with Ford. There's Alain Menu. Now, Plato, can he get any closer? Remember, there's a little bit of a score to settle here, because Rademacher was nerfed by Menu only a lap ago. Rademacher will be thinking to himself, okay, you go and sort him out, Jason, see if you can catch him up and return the favour. Out onto the back of the circuit, and I'll tell you what, that Vauxhall of Jason Plato, that red car there, looks pretty quick on this part of the track. He looks as though he's really putting Menu under pressure.
They've somehow found a performance with the car at Thruxton. It looks good, and I'm sure for the driver it feels good.
Well, it's all very neat, because we've got Reed in the first Ford, Rydell in the second Ford, Menu in the third. Don't forget there's a fellow called Muller way up the front in the lead Vauxhall. And look, there's Jason Plato in the second of the Vauxhall, and he's thrown the tow rope on the back of Menu's car. He's getting hauled down the back straight. They're doing 150 miles an hour. They're about to hit a very nasty chicane. Time to brake, boys. Hard under brakes. Belches smoke out of the back of the Plato Vauxhall. I don't know if that was tyre smoke or engine smoke. Now, meantime, Matt Neal, it's getting busier and busier. He's trying to get through the complex just when you thought it was safe to get back in the water. Menacing looking Honda of Tom Christensen, munching all over the back of Neal's Nissan. Across the start-finish line again. This is a real headache for Neal.
Yeah, Matt Neal's trying to look forward, but he's being forced to look in his mirror all the time, and he's not getting any second anywhere in the track to relax.
Well, there's a guy's mirrors that are very full. That's Alain Menu in the Ford, because he's got Jason Plato crawling all over the back of him. Right behind the pair of them is the man we're on board with, Rademacher. Remember, only a couple of laps back, he was tapped by Menu. He'll be sitting in the box seat now thinking, okay, Plato, go and settle the score for me. But he's actually looking very quick. Rademacher looks as though he's almost challenging. He's as quick as Plato.
Well, he seems to be taking a much better line through Goodwood Corner, giving himself more exit speed on the run down into Church, but of course, team orders are already in place.
Well, he's got a great view. Belch of smoke from Plato's car as they're through Church. So quickly. New surface on this track, they're pushing 140.
And that's a very, very difficult corner at the best of times. Running in close proximity to other competitors, it's frightening.
Puff of smoke, the blue smoke is tyre smoke, the grey smoke, as you can see, is engine smoke out of the back of Plato's Vauxhall. In formation through the chicane, across the start-finish line now. This is where Plato starts to look strong. This is where he looks as though he can line up Menu through Allards, over the back of the circuit, over the brow of that hill, then down into the next complex. What can he do? Menu defense, covers the inside. I think that was tyre and engine smoke.
Yeah, he really had to get left hand down to avoid hitting the back of Menu. The back stepped out, but he got it over this time.
Tagged him! That was as close as you like. Plato gives him a left hook, and then almost gives him a right jab as well as Menu slides back across the track. So lucky not to get cleaned up by Plato on the rebound.
Here's all the action between Cobb and Seagrave. Plato tags Menu on the rear corner. At the most unbalanced, Menu spins across the grass, cuts across the racetrack, and oh, well, you'll never get closer than that without contact.
And a wry smile goes across the face of Vincent Rademacher, who thinks to himself, that's my big brother Jason. He'll sort out the score. You hit me, Alan, and Jason will sort you out back again. Now, talk about being sorted out. Here's Christensen, and hang on, Christensen slowing. That was Christensen, who's been menacing the back of Matt Neal's car. Looks like he's got a big problem.
Yeah, that's the left front tyre house just blown midway between Church and the chicane. That just the forces the loads on the left front side of the car. Too much for Christensen's Honda.
Well, don't smile too much, Matt, because you've still got Tarquini to deal with. There's Matt now, and he's actually on a bit of a charge because he's closing up onto the back of that pair. The Vauxhall's ahead now. We're on board with Tarquini. He's chasing Neal, and ahead of Neal is Rademacher and Plato in through the first part of the complex. The middle section, this is the important part where they need to get the power down so they can have maximum momentum onto the back straight. Matt Neal slithering out of the back end of that complex. Now here's Christensen.
Left front off, new one on. Car back out, but of course in a 16-lap sprint race like this, really all he can do is just drive to the finish.
I told you so. This is the view from Matt Neal's car, and now it's Tarquini. How many Hondas are out there, he's thinking to himself. Every time I turn around, there's another one wanting to take a piece out of the back of my car. Through the complex, through the chicane rather, and across the strike again. Out onto the back of the circuit, Tarquini on board with him. Matt Neal is much closer this time, and he's squirming.
Yeah, Matt working very hard on the steering wheel. You can see the front wheels one way, then the other. But look at this down in the complex.
After you yet again, but Matt Neal won't be saying that to Tarquini. That's the difference. One teammate, there you go. Jason Plato was let through by Rademacher in real racing, which is following now. Matt Neal defends and stops the guy in the Honda trying to pass. That's the difference. But I'll tell you what, Tarquini is going to pass at this rate. He's really reeling Neal in.
Well, watching Matt Neal looking behind him rather than looking ahead, Tarquini's got the advantage.
This is the part of the circuit a couple of laps back, remember, where Tarquini brought himself undone. He had a little bit of a lunge at Matt Neal through that very fast right-hander and lost all his momentum, and Christensen got through. Christensen is now out of the equation. He's in the back of the field after his blown tyre. Now it's up to Tarquini. What can he do? Through Church Corner again. Here are the two sashaying Vauxhalls. It's Jason Plato and Rademacher still very much in touch, Waddy. This is the duel for fifth position.
The first time this year we've seen the three Vauxhalls really run so equally all through a race.
Belches of smoke out of those Vauxhalls as they go down through the gears into the brakings, and I'll tell you what, they'd never pass an MOT like that. On board with Tarquini, trying to catch Neal across the start-finish line again.
And he's getting closer as they come into Allard, but watch the Nissan. Looked terrible last time through. A little bit better this time.
Very, very focusing, though, for Matt Neal, because the car's rocking all over the place, and Tarquini has really got a bit of a roll on. What can he do? Hangs wide, tries to carry speed through. This is the middle part of the corner. Turns in. Oh, he felt the breeze from that one.
Well, you couldn't get any closer without having contact. Tarquini got out of the throttle as Matt just scythed his way across the front of the Honda.
That's a maneuver we've seen Rydell do very successfully a few times, but now look at the gap. Tarquini's lost momentum again. We saw that open up when we looked back from Neal's car.
Yeah, but wait until you see at the end of this lap. Although he's further back as they come through Goodwood, all the way down through Church, up to the chicane. Tarquini will be back on the boot lid of the Nissan.
Rademacher starting to lose a little bit of position now to his teammate Plato. But remember this guy up the front of the field. This is Van Muller. He got away brilliantly from pole position, has been leading since the race began, and has got a very, very comfortable lap. It's a copybook drive by Muller, making it look extremely easy.
In fact, it's really rather disappointing. Ivan Muller is the most spectacular touring car driver, and he's not giving us much spectacle, is he?
No, he's not. He's making it all look too easy. But Ricard Rydell's not making it look too easy. He's coming under a bit of pressure now from Jason Plato in the second of the Vauxhalls. There he is, Rydell on the left, Plato on the right, into the complex. Rydell moves to cover. Now Plato has a lunge down the inside. Rydell's one right, I don't believe it. Plato has actually slipped through. Rydell has had the Swedish shuffled on him. Now Tarquini's trying exactly the same thing. But he's done it with Braille. He's actually body contacted himself and launched Matt Neal.
Let's have a look again and see this incident. Tarquini, he dives down to the left. Matt Neal cuts across the way he did one lap, but this time the contact is inevitable.
Now, who's recovered from that? We're on board with Matt Neal looking back, scratching our heads, so he's still rolling. I don't know what happened to Tarquini. He went to the beaches after that on the infield. Don't know if he's restarted. Muller, meantime, is about to go through the complex for the last time and take this race out. Anthony Reid is in second position. Here's more action. They're fighting all the way to the wire. That was Rademacher trying to sneak around the outside of Rydell. Couldn't do it. But Muller first, Reid second, and what a drive from Jason Plato. Muscles his way up into third position, and Rydell hangs on to fourth. Real balance in the result, though. A perfect shuffle between Vauxhall and Ford. Vauxhall, Ford, Vauxhall, Ford. Vauxhall in the top five. Muller, great drive start to finish. Anthony Reid capitalised on a brilliant start. Then Plato, Rickard Rydell, and then Rademacher rounding up the top five. Remember, Alain Menu was in that lead bunch of Fords until he's coming together with Plato in the middle of the race. David Leslie is the lead Honda home. Matt Neal, the lead independent in the Nissan. Then the walking wounded, Menu and Christensen. You had to be careful, I guess, with all those Fords milling around you. You were on your own on the front row.
Yeah, I was a bit worried in the first corner with two Ford behind me, but was perfect. Was correct. I make also a really good start. Then I had a bit of space on the first corner, which helped me a bit.
So what's it like racing on this track? We were talking about the speed of it in qualifying. Is it different in a race pace?
Yeah, it's very different. You know, last year this circuit, I really hate this circuit last year. Now I love it.
Fair enough, Ivan.
Of Ivan Muller, a huge golden trophy and a massive French smile.
Well, we've got to learn about tyre wear, what's going to happen this afternoon. They've only got the feature race to go by so far, haven't they?
Yeah, and again, it's territory that's unknown because it's a long race. Determining where you make your pit stops is going to be critical. If you want to come in early, get back out on a clear track, which might be the smart thing to do, but your second set of tyres is going to have to go a long way on a track where teams have really not got that expertise. So it is a gamble, which could actually work to the advantage of us because we might just see something happening we hadn't expected.
Well, we're going to even see Class B cars having to pit because they're really struggling for tyre.
Yeah, they are. I mean, for some reason, they've got a different tyre, different size of tyre, different compound of tyre, and they're really struggling. I mean, towards the end of the 16-lap sprint race, Alan Morrison's tyre was just on the very edge. Now, these cars don't stop mandatorily, but they may have to stop out of choice. But they've got to get the old wheel brace out and do the four nuts on one side, run around, do the same on the other side. You know, they're not geared for that. They haven't got sophisticated pneumatic jacks and guns to do it with.
The guys last night, whenever everything sort of died down a bit, took the car out and wheeled it forward and done a few tyre changes. And they're sort of scratching their head with these four nuts they have to take off. But I'm sure, you know, if we come in, the guys there will work well at doing the job and everything will go fine.
Things have really been stood on their ear for race 2, the feature race. For a starter, these Class B runners are finding Thruxton so abrasive, they're going to have to stop for tyres halfway through, even though, as you probably know, for them, a pit stop is not compulsory. Now, bear in mind, they don't normally make high-speed pit stops, so that's going to be a bit of mayhem in itself. And up in the Class 1 division, well, even the natural order of things here has been upset as well. Look, in the middle of the field, Anthony Reid, and alongside him, Rickard Rydell and the second of the Fords. Remember, in race 1, they were the boys right up at the front. And on top of that, the Vauxhalls. The natural order there has been changed too, because the fastest Vauxhall runner in race 1, remember, Ivan Muller, he was poleman and he won. Well, now he's the slowest of the three Vauxhalls who lock out the front row. Could go anyway, Waddy.
Thanks, Charlie. Well, Muller may be the perceived #1 driver in the Vauxhall team, but it was racing Jason Plato who actually got the pole position, and it was his teammate Vincent Rademacher alongside in the front row. Muller's joined by Alain Menu in the lead Ford and also still leading the championship. The fastest Honda's Tom Christensen, and the second fastest Ford, Rickard Rydell. Anthony Reid and Gabriele Tarquini make up row 4. Independent Nissan, Matt Neal and David Leslie, row 5. Class B Peugeot and Honda, and remember these cars will be stopping. James Kay and once again Colin Blair having another poor session.
Revs are up, ready for a start. 3 Vauxhalls in a row. Plato away cleanly, so is Muller and Rademacher. Anthony Reid there in the Ford making a lunge down the inside into Allards for the first time. Rademacher and Plato side by side, and that's one of the Fords off. It's Rydell. Rydell off in a very big way. They don't realise it up at the front. They're still racing, but Rydell has been punted into the wall. Surely they're going to have to bring out a safety car, slow down this race. There's debris across the track. Now, Rydell is just being held from the car now. Good news there, he's okay. They are still, as I say, racing up ahead. That's Anthony Reid and Alain Menu side by side. Menu just sliding through there ahead of Reid. Any minute now, they must be pulled up because that is right across the track into Allards.
There's no question the safety car will have to come out. Too much debris in the track. The tyre barriers also, they've been damaged. They'll have to be put back into place. The safety car will be out at the end of this lap.
Fellows in the forward pit trying to work out what's going on. They can see actually from where they are in the pit lane, that first corner, so they'll know what's going on. There's the word slow down, slow down. We're coming up now into the very first corner after the start where the accident is off to the left. There you see it. Very heavy impact, Waddy. Big damage to the back of that Ford.
Well, let's have a look again and see. We're on board with Tarquini. You've got Reed on the right, Christensen in the middle, Rydell on the outside, and literally the two Fords, Concertina the Honda, which in turn bumps Rydell off to the left. That was a big impact. Front damage, not so bad. What you don't see is the back of the car. It is destroyed.
Good to see he looks okay. Just giving a debrief to his team about what happened, who hit me. The cars, meantime, are about to make a restart. This is a rolling start now through the chicane, and away they go. And look at the lead that Plato's got. The green flag is waving, meaning they can race, and they are indeed. Plato first, Rademacher second, Muller third. It's Vauxhall's just streaking away. Over the back of the complex now. That's Tarquini and Christensen. Tarquini ahead in the first of those Hondas, then Christensen, then Matt Neal in the independent Nissan. There's Rademacher, Muller, Menu, Reed, Tarquini, Christensen, all sliding through the complex and out onto the back of the circuit. They'll have cool tyres again. They didn't get a lot of heat in there, Ronnie.
No, there were 3 laps behind the safety car, and that's always very worrying when you have a restart. Everybody's on it immediately, but they don't always have the grip.
These boys are on it as well. That's Morrison and Lemmer in the 2 leading Class B cars on board with Lemmer. There's Morrison, side by side, almost tipping each other. That was very, very close, getting very friendly through Noble, but a good pass.
Yes, but it really tells you the story about Class B. Right now, Peugeot have got an advantage in weight, but they've certainly got an advantage with the power.
Waddy, another Manners attack. That was Muller sliding around the outside of Rademacher into the complex. Muller let through.
Yep, you'll see the left-hand indicator going. That's the indication from Rademacher to say, I'm going to stay on the left, pass me on the right.
On board with Anthony Reid, just passing that spot where Rydell had his start line accident. Down into the complex. All the way down through the gearbox into second. Menu ahead of us. Now here are our lead Vauxhalls. This is Rademacher. He's now the 3rd Vauxhall because he's just let Muller through. Big question is, what's Jason Plato going to do? Jason Plato is the lead Vauxhall. In fact, he's the race leader. There he is.
And Jason Plato really took advantage of that restart, almost to the extent you might say, well, did Rademacher go slowly to give Plato some advantage? I'm the cynic, and I have to say I have to be proved wrong yet.
Well, I tell you what, it is some advantage too. You could see the gap that he had over the rest of the field. Menu and Reid still very much in touch with each other. They are in 4th and 5th positions behind the first 3 Vauxhalls. Down into Church. Car going so quickly through there. Top gear through Church Corner.
You can just about see at the top of the steering wheel a little readout which says 225 kilometers per hour. And in my language, that's as near to 140 miles an hour as you're going to get.
Lovely cornering speed, that. Across the start-finish line again. Menu starting to catch up onto the tail of Rademacher. Reid still very much in touch. Into the complex now. Plato, meantime, coming up onto the first of the Class B runners. He's just passing Kay in the Honda Accord, the Class B Honda Accord. Gets through very smoothly, no problem there. Now we're on board with Alain Menu in his office, heading out onto the back of the circuit. Let's just watch the boy at work. Top gear. Cornering speed is terrifying, John Watson.
It certainly is, but I'm just beginning to wonder, is it more a case of Rademacher dropping back into the arms of Menu than Menu actually catching up Rademacher? Is he Vauxhall's 5th columnist this weekend?
Tom Christensen now in the Honda, locking up a rear tyre coming into the complex and using all of the curbs as well. All very well to muscle those curves, but you've got to watch for tyre wear. Well, he doesn't have to watch anymore because he's pitting. Here's our first pitter for the afternoon.
Let's have a look at Honda, see if they've learned anything from Donington. Remember, I pointed out how high the car goes up in the front. Well, what they've done, they've decided to change left side only. All 4 jacks in operation. Not everybody will go left side.
Didn't look as though that car came up as high either, Watty. Might have been listening to you, Jason Plato. Here's our race leader. Still got a very, very handy gap.
And the car looks so good. Plato really, really comfortable. Really enjoying his afternoon here at Thruxton. Clear air, just focusing on the checkered flag.
Clear air except at the back of his car when he has that little bit of a lift. Really, really running a fuely car, aren't they?
I think he stopped off and got some of that city diesel fuel in that Vauxhall.
Every time he has a little bit of a lift, a big belch of smoke, you can see it there. Half tyre, half engine smoke. We've seen the Vauxhalls do that all this year.
Yes, and Plato dives into the pits, so let's see how Vauxhall. Are they going to go left side? Are they going to go front side? But that fuel is really a method of keeping the engine under control. They shut the engine down totally off the throttle, but here we go. Jacks up as the fronts. The front of the car still appears to be not to be as high up as the Hondas. Great stop, 4.44 seconds from the race leader.
That's a cracker. Reid and Menu are starting to get closer to each other now. This Ford battle is starting to really hot up. Anthony Reid has shown us in the past he's not backwards when it comes to trying to get past one of his teammates. Saw him swap a bit of paint with Rickard Rydell in the last round of the championship, so I'm sure he won't be beyond muscling his way past Alain Menu if he can get within striking distance, and that looks as though that's what he's working on.
And just again watching Reid as he came through Goodwood Corner, he appears to have his car set up in a way which is making the car do the work, not the driver. And again through Church, see if he can catch up to Menu in the run up to the chicane.
He definitely looks less busy at the wheel through the back part of that circuit. Menu obviously is feeling pressure there because he's really using all of the curbs trying to hold him off. Now it's pit stop time. This is Reid pulling in.
A very late cut and deed from Anthony Reid, and just about manages to stop before he runs into the man at the front of the car. Reid and Muller in the pits. Muller 6.36, 7.52 for Anthony Reid, so disappointing for the Ford team, just over a second slower.
That will not do Anthony Reid's campaign to catch Alain Menu any good whatsoever, nor will it do Muller's campaign any good to try to catch the lead because it was a much slower stop. Leslie, meantime.
Again, David Leslie in the Honda for the first time this year. Car jacked up in the front tyres changed.
Rademacher now inherits the lead. He'll be well pleased with that, given the number of people that have been passing him this afternoon. Obviously going to be the last Vauxhall to pit. Mark Lemmer now, Class B runner in 12th position, he's in.
Also very important from Rademacher's point of view is to stay out as long as possible to pick up that final point for leading a race. Those points at the end of the year count. First Class B car, and this is the problem we were talking about. They've got actually air guns, but they've got to take those 4 nuts off individually.
A much slower stop for them, but they must change tyres here. This circuit is so fast and so abrasive. Even with the Class B runners, they can't assume that they can get through the race without literally destroying their tyres. Now, who are we waiting for? Must be this guy, Alain Menu.
Right out of the very edge. He comes out of Church Corner.
Very ragged edge indeed. Complete commitment from Menu. All the way through the gearbox, coming up onto the back of James Kay's Honda. Now, who's going where? James to the left, Menu to the right.
He was meant to go into the pits.
What are you doing? Come back! Come back!
Menu was so focused on James Kay, he forgot to turn into the pit lane. A bit like Matt Neal and Donington. And now the Ford team must clear off the pit lane. If they don't, they'll have a drive-through penalty.
Well, here is the man in question, Alain Menu. Will he come back and pit next time? Now there's our lead Class B runner, Alan Morrison. We saw him slide past Lemmer a little bit earlier. Also pitting. Rademacher, here's our outright race leader. Second place man, Alain Menu. And you can just see Rademacher off in the distance. Oh, he uses all of that circuit, Tom.
It's scary when you get so far out, 140 miles an hour through Church Corner, using the rub and bull strip and the grass to keep the car in control.
Very spectacular line being taken by Rademacher lap after lap. He uses all of the curve he feels like, and he's pulling into the pits now. Menu probably, yeah, him as well. This is going to be very, very busy. Ford versus Vauxhall.
Ford up first. They have their pits at the beginning of the pit lane. Rademacher's at the very end. Menu down 5.44 seconds. Rademacher's down in 5.24, so Rademacher retains the advantage over Menu.
Nose to tail they leave. There's Tarquini in the pits. There's got to be a problem. I mean, you can measure this pit stop with a calendar, not a stopwatch.
Yeah, look, you can see even the boom that holds the air lines, it's damaged. Something's happened to Tarquini. He came into the pits, but something just seems to have gone so wrong for the Italian team.
Well, here's your answer.
And there you can see the team did not expect Tarquini in a miscommunication, but also he drives over one of the airlines that's trapped under the car. So they're trying to get the car up, get the wheels off. Disaster.
Matt Blair's lot are out the pit lane. You're going to have to swerve in behind them. Somehow. Okay, mate, got you. I'm in this lap. I'm coming to the lane now.
Well, Matt Neal being warned of a traffic jam in the pit lane. He's going to make his pit now. He's getting ready to do it. This is the last chicane before the pit entrance, but he knows he's got to negotiate past one of the other cars in the pits as well. Blair coming in behind us.
The two independent Hondas in fact, they've got consecutive pits, so they're cut in. For Matt Neal, we look at the time, 4.60. Colin Blair a lot longer. Great stop from the independent team. Matt and Steve Neal. Colin Blair goes out at a slightly more leisurely pace in 11.2 seconds.
Not the circuit to give away time like that. Rademacher is trying to fend off Alain Menu. Remember, they came back out of the pits together. The Vauxhall driver just ahead of the Ford pilot, and he's still holding him off. Now we're on board with Matt Neal, the independent Nissan. We must be, because we're looking back and there's a Honda chasing us. This happens to Matt Neal lap after lap. Out onto the back of the circuit, and he's really coming under pressure. In fact, he's coming under more than just pressure. Leslie slid on the inside. Remember, Matt Neal has just come out after a pit stop. Side by side, Church Corner is next. This is very fast. Leslie slides through on the inside. But he's off! Leslie spun, Neal's off with him. They're going over 100 miles an hour through there. Amazingly, no major contact. That was a huge moment.
Leslie made the pass, but it all went wrong at the apex.
Big knocked off at Church by Leslie. He spun in front of me. I'm okay, I'm back on the track, but my rad's full of grass. I'm going to need... something else happened. What else happened? I think I've got a flipper or something. Coming up into the game now.
That's the voice of a man with a heartbeat of over 200 a minute. Matt Neal trying to regroup as he limps back towards the pits. There he is now. Look at the front of that car.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the day for Matt Neal. The whole front bumper spoiler taken out.
Full of grass as well. Knock it on the edge. Forget it, your splitter's gone, Matt. Whole lot's gone. Turn it off.
Matt Neal coming in to empty the grass catcher and see if they can do anything with that front splitter. And of course, the other man involved in this, David Leslie, in as well.
Leslie dived down my inside into Church. He lost it. And at the back end, I was right up his bumper, and as his rear came out, he took his foot off the brakes and went backwards off the circuit and just took me with him. I went down the inside of Matt into Church, and it went round Church and got too much oversteer, started to spin. In the middle of the spin, Matt ran into me. I was already like 90 degrees to circuit by that point.
Well, very lucid explanation from both drivers, and obviously no complaints from either of them in terms of their account of the event. Just a mistake that Matt was caught up in.
Yes, David has done the pass, but he was just on the wrong part of the track on the entry. He had to lift off. Matt tagged the back of the Honda, but that happened after the Honda was out of control, and the inevitability, both cars off in the grass. Matt Neal's out of the race. David Leslie, well, he'll be the walking wounded for this feature race.
Terribly lucky not to hit anything hard down there. What he's doing well over 100 into there.
Penalty, Gabriele, penalty. Basta nei box, basta nei box.
And that's not a new Italian dish. That means come into the pits, I believe.
Yeah, more than you actually had planned to. A drive-through penalty for Gabriele Tarquini for running over somebody's equipment in the pit lane. Not a good afternoon for Honda.
No, disappointing indeed. And Tarquini, who looked to be very strong in the sprint race, all went wrong in that pit stop.
This bloke looks pretty strong though, Van Muller. And he's closing in on his teammate. He's more than closing in. That's Jason Plato, the race leader, his teammate, and his left-hand indicator is on, and we know what that means.
I think it must be a faulty indicator switch. That is not motor racing in my view, and it's not what Jason Plato would ordinarily expect to do. And he gets an acknowledgement. It's a bit like a couple of truck drivers down the M1.
10-4, good buddy, thanks a lot. I owe you a beer. Jason Plato moving to one side, and plainly team orders working all the way through for the Vauxhall team, with Van Muller the beneficiary. Jason Plato was let past Rademacher, so we can obviously assume from that he is the third man in the pecking order. Tarquini, another visit to the pits.
And this is just the drive-through for running over the airline when he came in for his pit stop, so a penalty, and that'll add something about 25 seconds to his race distance.
Frustration for Tarquini. Now we're on board with another spinner. That's Rademacher. Pirouettes. I'm getting dizzy, but I think we're at Church Corner.
Well, I don't think it's Darcy Bushell driving the Vauxhall. It is actually Vincent Rademacher.
Explore the tyre. I explore the tyre.
Okay, Vince, thanks.
I'm okay.
Do you hear that tyre, Scott?
Terrible luck for Rademacher. A little bit of luck he hasn't come into contact with anything solid in that spin, but we knew tyre wear was an issue, and he's obviously fallen foul.
And it's all happening down at Church Corner, the quickest corner on the circuit.
Once you leave the circuit, so much grass right up to the edge of it, you just slide forever. Here are our race leaders. Muller coming up behind James Kay in the independent Class B Honda. Jason Plato right behind him. Jason Plato obviously wanting to demonstrate that although he's let Muller pass, Muller is not quicker than him. He's got his headlights ablaze and he's staying very much in touch.
Plato, having had pole, led from pole, having been forced back into second place, has been the quickest of the three Vauxhall drivers here in the feature race.
Muller and Plato, nose to tail down through Church Corner. A little bit of a puff of smoke there from the Vauxhall, as Plato has a small lift. Not wanting to get too close, and there's another car off. That's Tom Christensen. This is a motor racing, it's grass skiing. Yet another car going off-piste, trying to work his way back onto the circuit. I don't know if he's got a blowout as well or just lost it.
It certainly looks to me like the left front may be deflated again out of Church Corner, and if it is, that's Christensen's second tyre failure of the afternoon.
A message there to Muller though from the pits. Back off a little bit, boys. We've just had one car go off with tyre problems. Let's take it easy. That's not going to please Jason, I guess, with Ford's looming behind them.
No, it will not, because it means it's going to bring Ford into contention with Plato's second place. But there it is, confirmation, left front for Tom Christensen.
It's really like running these tyres under an angle grinder as they go around on the very long constant radius corners into the pits. Hits the wheelman. Hope he's all right. Christensen not able to pull up quickly enough with that blown tyre.
Not at all. You could see that he really only had one front brake working. He was just skidding with the left front. They're going to put another one on. But let's hope that the man on the front of the car isn't injured in any way whatsoever. The impact really was very slow, and that bottle, the air bottle, took most of the impact. But nonetheless, let's hope the man with the air gun is in good shape.
This guy's in good shape. Plato, he's in second position. This man is not in good shape. James Kay, rotten luck for him. He was running a really clever strategy of taking it easy on his car, trying to avoid a pit stop. But he's obviously got a bigger problem than that.
Yes, that looks a terminal engine problem, but clever strategy, a gamble that really saw Kay comfortably in the lead of Class B.
Tom Christensen, disappointment. He's out of the race. That's two Hondas down. Tarquini's had a drive-through. Alan Morrison's having a happy afternoon, leading Class B. Such a powerful runner.
And Alan Morrison, one of the future major stars in British touring car racing.
Well, there's our injured wheelman. Tom Christensen saying, terribly sorry, mate, didn't mean to run over you. Menu trying to close up onto the back of those Vauxhalls. The Vauxhall's really the class of the field this afternoon, but Menu is making the most of it in this Ford. Look at him working.
Yeah, he's really, really sawing at the steering wheel as he came through Noble into Goodwood. Now the run down into Church, into sixth gear. Time's running out.
Running out indeed. In fact, the pit crew are running out. They're running out to the pit wall to congratulate them, because for Vauxhall, this is really their day. 1-2. Muller, Plato, who let Muller through, right behind him. You can complain about team orders, you can complain that Muller perhaps was gifted this win, but you cannot criticize Vauxhall for the performance of these cars. Vauxhall absolutely dominant this afternoon. Muller and Plato 1-2.
Well done, guys. Well done. Well done, guys. Well done to everybody. Thanks very much to Jason and Phantom. Well done, good team. Great guys, man. Great guys.
But at the front, it's Vauxhall's day. Ivan Muller, Jason Plato, 1-2. Alain Menu and Anthony Reid, strong drive from them in 3 and 4. Menu really made the Vauxhall guys work. Gabriele Tarquini, a drive-through penalty, and still scrapes a top 5 finish. Well done, Gabriele. And if you ever doubted that Thruxton Circuit wasn't a car killer, have a look at this. Only 2 more finishes. Blair in 6th position in the independent Nissan, and Morrison 7th. Jason was ahead of you for a long time. How did you ultimately catch him?
Because he slowed down a bit his speed and he let me pass because it was like this.
Is it team orders or?
Probably.
And that's the tactic for the year?
You know, when you fight with one team like Ford or Honda, you have to work all together, and is what's happened. I feel very happy about this, of course, because that means the team are very close together. I think it's the best strategy.
We're a team. We're here to win the championship for Vauxhall, and that's our priority, and that's the only thing we're here to do. Jason did a fantastic job out there. But at the end of the day, we're here to win the championship, and it's important to finish 1 and 2.
Of course, we all want to win races. They're hard enough to win, let alone having to give them away. But, you know, Evan's not happy about the situation, or, you know, he doesn't like to win races that way. But, you know, I just got to keep his fingers crossed. One day it'll be my turn.
But 6 races in, that's a bit early for team orders, isn't it?
Well, we'll have this conversation in the last race, shall we? It's never too early. We need points in the bag. We want to win the championship for Vauxhall, and we're starting now.
Those team orders push Muller into 2nd in the overall points, just 6 behind Ford's Alain Menu. But Jason Plato in equal 3rd, just 3 points off his teammate, must be thinking, what if? He shared the spot with Anthony Reid, who leaps ahead of his teammate Ricard Rydell. Gabriele Tarquini's the best Honda man, with Vincent Rademacher 7th and Tom Christensen in 8th. The battle for 9th and 10th is also the battle for the Michelin Cup for Independence. Colin Blair just edging Matt Neal. Vauxhall's domination of the top step of the podium has tightened up the battle for the manufacturer's title. Ford still leads by 36 points, but Vauxhall's certainly not out of it yet. As for Honda, well, over 100 points down on Ford, it's back to the drawing board. Alan Morrison's Class B double has propelled him and Peugeot back into the points lead. The unlucky James Kay lies in 2nd, with his Honda teammate Mark Lemmer completing the top 3. Mark Lemmer missed out on valuable points today. He was disqualified from the results of race 2. He passed under yellow flags during the Ricard Rydell incident in Allard Corner. Okay, just time to waste a few bottles of fine champagne on some poor unsuspecting soul before heading north of the border to Knock Hill. So, who'll be top of the heap in Scotland?